My name is Mayor Aquanetta Warren, and I serve in the great city of Fontana. And I am so honored and thankful to my sister girl, Mayor Deborah Robinson, for allowing me this opportunity. If she ever gets another MC, my feelings are going to be hurt because I look forward to this event every year. I also want to thank City Clerk of Rialto, Barbara McGee. That's my road dog. We're going to have a good time today, aren't we, ladies and gentlemen? Let's give all these great vendors a big hand. We're going to start our program with the pledge. This young woman serves in the city, the great city of San Bernardino. And Mayor Robinson and myself and a host of other female and male elected officials have adopted her, and we're not disappointed. So please put your hands together for Mayor Pro Tem Bassine Richards from the city of San Bernardino.
Thank you, and I truly love my adopted mothers, sisters, brothers, and I'm gonna keep more. I need more. Thank you. Can we all stand, please? And can we place our hands on our hearts? Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Let's continue to stand, everyone. We will now have our invocation by our own Gina Gibson Williams with the city of Rialto. Let's welcome her.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. Good morning. Let's go before our Lord. Thank you. Dear Lord, thank you for this occasion, this Women's Conference for 2019. And let's also thank you to Medline Industries for opening up a place for us to celebrate femininity and champions of change, and all those staff members who diligently work to make this event possible. Thank you for our mayor and her great leadership and her team of leaders with the Rialto City Council. Thank you so much, Lord. And now let us bless each and every person that's represented here and all of their households. May we each be champions of change. Amen.
And now I have the great honor of introducing the great mayor of Rialto, Mayor Deborah Robinson.
Good morning, everyone. All right, we can do a little better. I doubt if we're going to make these boxes come down, but hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning. All right, we're in the house. Thank you so much. I want to just take this opportunity to say welcome to the wonderful city of Rialto, the place that I always refer to as the jewel of the Inland Empire, and I really believe that. I want to just say I'm so happy and pleased to see everyone turn out. It just warms my heart. This morning with the rain coming down in buckets, I was just really wondering, would it deter us? But I am just honored and just knowing that this is a labor of love for everyone to be able to get here and not be deterred by the rain. So give yourselves a round of applause, because we are a determined group of people when we want to make something happen. Today's program is going to be fantastic. There's a lot of symbolism in it, and I think you're just going to be at awe as we walk through the program today. I too wanted to give special thanks to a number of people. Some of them were already covered, but again, as one person who I can always call on, and it's just amazing to have two women who are actually the women representing side by side in the in the Inland Empire, sitting side by side, sharing common borders. I love that I have a wonderful relationship with Mayor Aquanetta Warren, and I would just like to let you guys know, please give her a round of applause, because she can always, she will always come to my aid. She will always advise and counsel. She helps me with getting into doors when I need to get indoors, if I can't get in those doors. So I just want you guys to know that she is truly, truly a person who I really cherish your relationship and your friendship. I also want to say that this could not be possible with, again, as they acknowledged, our host. Now, if you've been coming, this is the 13th year of the State of the Women event. And we've always had, pretty much in the last 5 or 6 years, an industrial building that's usually going to eventually have a tenant, and we get in and we can use the facility. Well, this is progress in Rialto. Tenants and buildings and tenants are coming in so fast that we are really having a hard time finding an empty building. And so now you are being hosted by one of our #1 businesses in Rialto, is a #1 sales producer in Rialto. But this is a working operation. This is Medline Industry. And I just want to tell you, it is amazing and somewhat deja vu that I started this event based on the fact we were focusing on women's health issues, and then to find ourselves here being hosted in the middle of an operation that's underway. And Medline Industries, if you're not familiar with them, are basically everything that is brought into the hospitals or into ambulatory, your walkers, the potties. If you go to Walgreens and you look up, you will see all of the products that are usually brought in that you can buy, from canes to gurneys, what is by Medline Industries. So I find it amazing we're here in the presence amidst this activity. I want to also just give a special thanks to the team here in Rialto, because this would not be possible without a team that is just diligent and dedicated. And you mentioned her once, but I'm going to mention it again, under the leadership of my friend, but also our city clerk and our director of management services. Give a round of applause to Miss Barbara McGee, she's co-hosting this with us along with the other women organizations, but you guys know Barbara, it'll be hard to get Barbara to get up here on stage, okay? And then also the co-hosts of the women organizations that have been in support of our event for a number of years now. And you will hear from some of their members here shortly. I also want to give special thanks to our Public Works Maintenance Department, because they're the ones, along with the city clerk's staff, who has managed to make this facility look as beautiful as it is. And so, directed by Ms. Maria Rodriguez, who is the deputy of city clerk, and the staff, Norma and Christian and Gabe and all of those. But then also our maintenance department, Public Works, who is directed by Mr. Robert Eisenbeis. And I know we have our city administrator in here, our interim city administrator. You guys get to know Sean Grayson because he's the interim city administrator, but he's also our fire chief. So everybody has to do multitask work around here in Rialto. I want to thank the women organizations that are here. And I want to call up, are you going to do the call up or should I call them up? The women organizations that are here to host us. You're going to take care of that? Well, then I'm going to leave that to her because she's Mistress of Ceremony, and I'm going to let her handle those duties. But again, it's been a pleasure. This is, go through the program, read it, because this also recognized this year another symbol of how long we have been here and how hard it is for us to move forward. But we have nonetheless, we haven't deterred ourselves, and we have been here, people, African descendants of over 400 years here in America. So you're going to hear a lot. You're going to just be amazed and awed. And again, I just want to thank you guys for coming out. Thank you. But I'd like to take the opportunity to bring up the two organizations that are our co-hosts this year, starting with the one that probably has been with us and been on board with this activity in support of it for a number of years, and I would like to acknowledge the Inland Empire section of the National Council of Negro Women and call on the president, who I don't happen to know, call on this year's president of second term, Miss Milele Robertson. Would you please join us? Coincidentally, we happen to have the same last name. Wonder why.
Good morning, everyone. I wasn't prepared. I didn't even know I was on the program. So just wanted to take a moment to say welcome, welcome. Just like most of you all know, I'm not even going to go formal. This is my mom. So give it up to Mom, Mayor Robertson, for bringing us all together. And again, I want to thank everyone for coming out and not letting the rain be your deterrent. The Inland Empire National Council of Negro Women has been a community organization of African American women, but we welcome all women to our organization. But I do want to take the time, because it's not about me as the president, it's about the women who started. I like to always take the time to recognize our founding members who I'm so honored to always be in their presence at every event, Mrs. Lois Carson and Mrs. Laura Goodley. Please. Without them, I wouldn't be here in our organization. I would like to take another minute to have all the members, and even we have our Southern California president, Dr. Helena Johnson. We have our visiting section, Pomona Valley section, and then the Inland Empire section. If you all please, members, officers, president, please stand. Pomona Valley, Carly and your team. Great. Thank you. Again, thank you, and please enjoy the program.
All right, thank you. Thank you. And then the next co-host group that's with us is the League of Women Voters for the Inland Empire. And I know that I believe you're coming up now, I believe the president was not with us, but we have the co-president. So let's give the co-president a round of applause.
I was thinking today when we said the pledge, one of our members at the end of saying the pledge always says, when we say, "with liberty and justice for all," she says, "after the Equal Rights Amendment is passed." And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking that in some ways, with liberty and justice for all is an aspirational statement, and how honored I am to be here with the League, to be able to be part of this great event in a room full of people who are working and giving everything they have to make that aspiration true and to help our nation live up to those ideals. So I just want to thank you for the work you do, and thank you for coming out today.
Thank you. And I'm certain everyone that's in the room is already a registered voter. However, if for some reason you've moved, changed, or something has happened, the League of Women Voters booth is here, and you can take care of re-registration while you're here today. So that was one of the things that's very important. Now, I'm going to part off the stage again, but before I do, there's one other person that I would like to acknowledge, because this is truly an honor. We have a lot of women organizations, and we have one that's also the Link Society. And one of the Link's projects is preparing to make diapers that we send to other countries, countries in Africa and also in Cuba. And we collect T-shirts, and then there's a group of ladies that are responsible for cutting every Tuesday and preparing these diapers. And along with the partnership of NCNW and other organizations, we supply the diapers, and then we make sure when someone's traveling to one of the countries, they also take those diapers. But every Tuesday, without fail, there's a lady who shows up. Now, this is amazing. She shows up to help prepare those diapers to cut them. She drives herself to the facility. I just was told the type of vehicle she drives. It's not a little small one, it's a Lincoln. And this person is going to soon be 100 years old. And she's here, and I'd love her to stand up, but if not, you guys stand up and give Miss Thelma Earl a round of applause. Now, if that is not called dedication and duty, she's a member of, I think, St. Paul's AME, but she definitely every Tuesday shows up. And I shared with her that my mother will be 91. And no, I did not take my mother's license away from her. She finally felt she wasn't comfortable with driving. But I have to applaud Miss Earl if she is still driving herself on a regular basis to go take care of doing what we say the Lord's work. So thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of the program.
As I walked up here, I think I found my ticket. I'm praying it wasn't called yet. You know, just now, when we talk about women and we talk about sacrifice, this is amazing. There is no excuse for those of us under 100 years old for the things that we have to do. And it just takes just that thought of, what if I tried? What if I got up a little bit earlier? What if I cut an activity just so I could help someone else? If we all did that in a 3-month period, we would never know what happened, but I bet you the Inland Empire would be a better place than it is now. We have to begin to challenge ourselves to step above and beyond. And these next people that I'm going to introduce, they do that all of the time. Most are called dirty politicians, the loudmouth ones, the ones that just have these huge egos. But the ones that I know don't fit in those categories. They're there early in the morning, working hard, late at night, making decisions. And those decisions pattern how everyone's life is done. So I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to name off the dignitary, and I'd ask everyone to hold their applause. But I'd like each and every one of them to stand, and then we as a group can honor them the way they should be honored. I want to start with Mayor Deborah Robinson, City of Rialto, City Clerk Barbara McGee, City of Rialto, Councilmember Raphael Trio, City of Rialto, Councilmember Joe Baca Jr., City of Rialto, Congresswoman Norma Torres, 35th Congressional District, myself, former Councilmember Debbie Franklin, City of Banning, Vice President Jasmine Hall, Inland Empire Utility Agency, Board Member Dr. Margaret Hill, San Bernardino City Unified School District, Mayor John Valvita, San Bernardino, Supervisor Josie Gonzalez, 5th District, former City Council Member Virginia Marquez, Mayor Pro Tem Bassine L. Richards, City of San Bernardino Community College Joseph Williams. And if I did not call your name, could you please stand and recognize yourself right now? If I did not call your name. Okay, let's give them the applause they deserve. Thank you so much. See, I told you I can keep some order. Now, we're going to talk about 400 years, which is the national celebration of Black women, and we're going to be graced and honored to have Katrina Johnson Green, and I just got to name off these titles, because I want her to tell me what all this means. MS, PPS, LPCC, AKA Bad Sister. She is the Inland Empire chairperson. Please join us on the stage. Let's welcome her, everyone.
I just want you to know I'm going to leave my ticket, so just in case you need to read off any more numbers, you got one. So I am Katrina Johnson Green. I am the 1619 Inland Empire Chair for the 1619 National Celebration of Black Women. And I am proud to stand before you today to bring information to you that highlights some of the significant achievements that have taken place in this country over 400 years. I stand before you today on the backs of Black women in America who have bled, fed, and died in this country so that I can live. I am 1619. The credentials are just degrees I've achieved in my life, but without these women, I would be nameless. I would be degreeless. And so I am proud to be able to come up here and be a representative of that movement and to share a short video presentation that highlights some of the significant things that are happening across the country throughout this year, and also refer you to your program so that you can go to the website and find out ways that you can participate in some of these historic events. Okay?
I'm Cheryl Mallory Johnson, the founder and visionary of the 1619 National Celebration of Black Women. The year 2019 will mark the 400-year commemoration since the first African captives arrived to the shore of Jamestown, Virginia in the year 1619. This historic national movement arose out of the necessity to honor women in American history who have emerged from slavery, defied the odds, and came out victorious. Women who bred, fed, and nurtured an entire nation. Our mission is to recognize the extraordinary contributions women of African descent have made in building this country. Through a dynamic vision of uplifting and educating Black women and girls about their ancestors, we inspire them to walk in their power. This March 2nd, during Women's History Month, we invite you to join the celebration wherever you are in the country. For great ways to take part in this historic event, please visit our website at 1619 National Celebration of Black Women, or follow us at Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at 1619 NCBW. If you live in the San Diego area, you can join the official National Celebration of Black Women.
Thank you.
I think we can do better than that, everybody. That was amazing. I got to tell you all that I have to be honest. Up until the time that I was originally appointed to the council, and then I got to know people in the region, and just really started working in the community. I was already working in the community, but it was always, it was women and men working together. But it started for me on our city council, learning about female power when I had to sit with my colleague, Josie Gonzalez. Josie would always remind me that being a female is special, and that when we lead with our hearts. And she still does that today, and she still reminds me of that. And it was Gilbert who told me I needed to meet this dynamic other council member that had recently been put on the Rialto Council. And her name was Deborah Robinson. And I got to hang out with Deborah, and I just always had a good time with Deborah. And of course, that meant I got to know Barbara McGee, and we just, all of us, just have a ball. But, yeah, except for your dog, Smokey. Deborah's husband's dog, Smokey, does not like me. He is the only man in this world that I know that does not like me. And I'm sure you're thinking, we got a few other that don't like you, Aquanetta. But I brave and go over to Deborah's house, hoping that I don't ever end up in emergency with me and Smokey, because I'm not going by myself. I keep telling Dana, I'm not going by myself. But being around all these powerful women, particularly when I lost my mom and dad, it's something when you look in the church and you look behind you and people are smiling back at you. And then you get to the repast and the entire division of IE, NCNWs back there making sure there's food for the family. You begin to really appreciate women. But there's a clique of us, and I've named a few of them already, because I can't leave out Debbie Franklin. I'm not going to try to leave out Dr. Hill. And Bassine, we just got her in here, but we're going to keep getting her in here. Because, we got to take care of our young. But this next lady that's going to be our keynote speaker, she does not play around, and she fits right into the group. She is the best dance partner I've ever had. And when it comes to karaoke, y'all ain't heard nothing from Aretha. I just want to let you know. She is Chairwoman Lynn Valbuena, and she's the chairwoman of the Samuel Band of Indians. She is in her third term. She's held numerous positions in the tribe, but corporate America respects Lynn because she is guiding them to a level that no one ever expected to happen. And they are an economic engine in this region that we dearly appreciate. What I like about Chairwoman Lynn is that she cares for everyone. We know that our sisters and brothers from the Indian tribes care for Mother Earth, but they also care for Mother Earth's population. And Lynn is that person. So I get to hang out with the best of the best every once in a while. But it cheers me on as a female and a leader to know that they got my back and I've got theirs. So please, I need you to stand and honor this great woman that is going to deliver our keynote speech today. Come on up here, Lynn.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Aquanetta. As Aquanetta was saying, I see many, many friends here, all the great women in leadership that I've been around for a number of years, and I've been doing what I do for now about 45 years. And also, I'm a great grandmother now, too. But thank you for inviting me here to be a keynote speaker. But before I begin, I want to begin by saying in our Serrano language, hamatamsh, which in our language means hello to a large group. I also am happy to have my daughter here with me today, Sabrina and Audrey. If you could stand and be recognized. These two women here are leaders in our tribe as well. They are former council members for our tribe, but also they sit on many, many subcommittees for our tribe and keep our tribe moving forward with all the collaboration and everything that we do in business for our tribe. So I want to thank the both of you for your passion. And I would be remiss if I did not introduce my good friend and my former boss from San Bernardino PD. I did work for San Bernardino PD in 1977, and my former boss from there is here with us today, Velia Marquez. She hired me 42 years ago at San Bernardino PD. Thank you for being here, Velia. So she's retired now from the police department, and also with her today is Rachel Krasny, who is our city clerk from San Bernardino, has been retired now for 7 years. So I've known these two women like most of my life. Thank you for coming here today. And all my good friends out there, from Josie to Mayor Robertson to Aquanetta, all of you, it's just so good to see all of you. So I'll go ahead and begin, and I tend to talk a lot, and I love sharing stories in my travels over all my years of meeting people and doing what we do in the community with relationships. So I think my sister or someone will give me the, cutoff signal if I go, too long. But I also just want to begin by saying Lynn Valbuena, San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, and I've been in leadership role now for about 40 years, from being on council, from being involved with the tribe with various businesses that we do, and then also chairing an organization called the Tribal Alliance of Sovereign Indian Nations. And those are 12 tribes and 3 counties in the state of California, from Santa Barbara, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties. Those tribes and San Manuel, we meet regularly once a month. And just very quickly, this organization started in 1995 in the conference room at San Manuel at the Bingo Hall back in 1986. But we started our organization in 1995 because we started bingo and we were being threatened to be shut down and have the feds come and seize our machines and everything. So all 12 tribes stuck together. We did what we could to finally pass Prop 5 and Prop 1A, and we're here where we are today with all the tribes that have gaming in California. So we want to thank all of you for your support for that. So this year's national theme, Visionary Women, Champions of Peace and Nonviolence. It's an important principle for so many great women out there, both young and old, and still not appropriately recognized for everything that they do and their contributions to the greater community. I am honored to be here today to participate in this event honoring Women's History Month. I am excited to share with all of you the history of San Manuel, my tribe, the stories of women in leadership for our tribe, and a number of things that we've done in the community. And I would like to begin by giving a little history of our reservation. For those of you that are not familiar with San Manuel, we are located we're only maybe 20 minutes from here in the foothills of San Bernardino. And the reservation, San Manuel, is named after our great-great-grandfather, Santos Manuel. So we shortened his name and named the reservation San Manuel. So our great-great-grandfather was our, what we call Kika, or leader in our language, back in the 1800s. And he was our leader back then. And then in the 1950s, early 1950s, my grandmother, Martha Chacon, became our leader then. She is responsible for bringing water and electricity to our reservation. And as a kid, it wasn't a big deal for us to go down the street where we had apricot groves and orange groves, where actually our parking structure sits right now. But we would line up as kids and with our tribal member adults and have large brown paper bags and wait for the welfare trucks to come up and give us the canned food and the powdered milk and the commodities. The best that I liked was the long cylindrical cardboard box that said Velveeta cheese. Oh God, that was so good. Then later on, people said, "Ooh, you eat that?" They said, "That's what they put on the fish lines to catch fish." But that cheese was great. So as kids, we ate cornflakes and would go outside, and it wasn't a big deal for us to put our bowl of cornflakes under a water faucet and eat it with water, because once we added sugar, it was good. And if we did have milk, it was powdered milk anyhow. So, but those are days that our younger generations now and the millennials don't know. They never saw those days, but I did growing up on the reservation, and it always makes me feel really good about sharing those stories and mentoring our younger children so that they know that, times were rough. And when I tell them, well, back in the 50s or 60s, I said, Mom and Dad would say, get up and change the TV channel. And they said, what? You didn't have a remote? I said, no, you're all too spoiled. So we call ourselves the Yuhaviatam. In our language, that's people of the pines. And I'm going to show some visuals when I finish here, and you'll see a picture of our great-great-grandfather, Santos Manuel, and you'll see the pine trees with the pine cones. And so we're one of several clans of the Serrano Indians. So our reservation was established in 1871 by executive order, and we ended up having only 640 acres then, but our historical ties and ancestral lands go all the way east of LA, 29 Palms, and then down to, or up to the high desert in Barstow. So back then, before we were given executive order to be established as a reservation, our ancestral lands were 7.3 acres. We ended up with only 640. So if you ever come to San Manuel and see the reservation, you'll see that it's all foothills and hills and mountains. We don't have really the flat, adequate land base for building homes or for construction or infrastructure. Currently, we're leveling a hilltop to make 40 pads for tribal members to build homes, but there's no infrastructure, there's no electricity, there's no water, there's no power, so it's going to take a year for us to do that, and probably another year before anyone even puts a shovel in the ground. But we're working on that right now. I am proud to acknowledge that over the past 60 years, beginning in the 1950s with our grandmother, when she was chair, we also had my 4 cousins and my aunt that were chairs in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and then the 2000s, and then of course myself. I've been on council beginning back in the early 90s and was chair back then and still stayed on council and back on my 3rd term right now as chairwoman. So I've seen a lot of change. I've seen a lot of things that we still need to be done, but collaboratively and together. It's so important for us to establish and build those relationships in our community with partnerships, because we have to work together. For example, when we started doing infrastructure and construction on our reservation, literally, as you know, if you've been there, you're going right through the neighborhood of the city residents of Highland and San Bernardino. And most reservations, you're not going to see that. They're going to be, off the main highway, or they're going to be in a desolate area. But with us, it's right through. You have a middle school on one side of the casino, an elementary school on the other. So there were concerns, and legitimate concerns from the neighbors. And the tribe took care of that, because we had community meetings with our neighbors. We hired cross guards. We put in crosswalks. We put in stoplights all the way up and down Victoria Avenue. We even built 15, 20-foot retaining walls going all the way up Victoria Avenue. So when you go up there, you see all those high walls. That's the reason why. And the neighbors appreciate that. We also give them, it's about 1,600 newsletters now every month to every home in that area, so we keep them updated on what the tribe is doing. And then also, in leadership roles, I learned so much from my mother and my grandmother. My mother was also a leader in the community. She wrote a book called Living in Two Worlds. She was an author of a book and published it, but our mom always would speak at the schools, the libraries, various venues to educate people because people were always having questions about, the tribes, and still we get questions. I was mentioning earlier to someone that I spoke at a venue with about 400 people in Redlands a while back, and one lady in the audience asked me, "What kind of passport are you allowed to use when you travel?" And I said, "Well, I'm an American citizen, so I use the same passport you do." She said, "Oh." So, and there was another one too where I spoke, and this was at San Bernardino Valley College, and the lady said, "Do you always dress like that?" And I'm thinking, well, she likes all my bling bling and, my turquoise. And I said, "I'm sorry." I said, "I don't quite understand your question." And she said, "Well, when you go back to your reservation at San Manuel, are you going to put on your feathers and costume?" Anyhow, but I had to be very diplomatic and respectful and said it in a way that, no. But then the next question was, "Do your homes look like teepees?" So, I mean, like I said, in my 45 years, been there, done that, seen it, nothing surprises me anymore. So it's always still an ongoing education for us to educate people in the community and those new legislators too, both on a local, state, and federal level, because some of the new legislators aren't familiar with sovereignty. I know I do have to say this, one of the first questions, a lot of times I'm asked to be on a panel to interview new legislators, candidates running for state legislature, and the first question I ask them is, "Have you ever been to an Indian reservation?" And their response is, "Well, yes, of course. We go all the time because we love the buffet." And then I'll explain everything that we have. Well, we have education, a fire department, Department of Public Safety, this, that, 5,000 employees now at San Manuel. And they say, "Well, you're like your own, like a city government." And I said, "Yes, that's what we are, but we're always educating because people still don't understand or know that." So I do distinctly remember when my grandmother was our chairwoman. At that time, we called them spokespersons. They weren't called chairs. But she would be traveling sometimes, and I'd ask my mom, and I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and I'd say, "Mom," I said, "where's Toot going now?" And Tutu in our language means grandmother, like in the Hawaiian language, Tutu. But we would say Toot for short. I'd say, "Where's Toot going now?" And my mom would say, "Honey, she's going to Sacramento to meet with people who are going to bring better things to our reservation and help us." And little did I know, 25 years later, I would be doing the same thing, but I fully understand now what my grandmother was doing at that time. So I really learned from my mother and from my grandmother on what leadership was and what you had to do to get things done. I mentioned my mother's book, Living in Two Worlds, and my mother, she talks about her life before gaming, and she talks about her life after gaming, and she would always say, "I liked my life better before gaming. I liked the simple life," because we didn't have a lot of things on the reservation. For example, we started paving the roads, we put in stop signs, we have Department of Public Safety officers that would patrol the area, and my mom would always say, "I don't like those stop signs now that we put on the reservation, and when our officers stop us, they can give me a ticket. I'm going to go right through the stop sign," because those stop signs never used to be there. But that was our mom, and I know at meetings we would always sit next to her and kind of, tap her under the table. "Mom, no, you can't say that at this meeting. Mom, no, you can't do that." But our mom was so direct and outspoken that she just kind of told it like it was, and people loved it. But sometimes my sister and I would say, "Mom, this isn't the right venue to say that." Well, it's true, so. But anyhow, that was our mom. So, I learned a lot from both my mom and my grandmother. Also at San Manuel, we have what we call our youth council, and they mirror what we do as council members for San Manuel. So they meet every week, and the age is 12 to, I want to say 17. And what they do is they learn, they do cultural activities. We want to make sure that they don't lose their identity and they don't forget who they are, where they came from. And so we have elections annually for 5 of the kids to run for a council and mentor other kids on the reservation. And so that's through the education department. And my daughter Sabrina is the vice chair of that education department, so works there with, you know, some of the teachers or linguists that are there with the kids, and they meet every, you know, every week. So thank you, Sabrina, for doing that for us. I know you've been doing that for a number of years. So again, leadership in the tribe. Also, wanted to mention a little bit of background about Indian tribes. So I don't know how many of you out there know how many Indian tribes federally recognized are in the United States, because sometimes I will ask that question to some and they have no clue. We have 572 federally recognized tribes in the United States, and 229 they call villages, not reservations, but 229 villages in the state of Alaska for the Alaskan natives. And in California, 112 tribes out of the 572 are in our great state of California. So we have, our state has the most tribes out of the 572, and out of the 572, 70 now have casinos in California up and down the state. But the misconception out there from the general public is that just because a tribe has a casino, they're all rich and wealthy. And that's not true, because it has to do with location and demographics. So there are tribes that are still struggling out there that have gaming but barely making it because of the location. As you know, in the area here, we have from San Manuel to Morongo, Saboba, Pachanga, 29 Palms, Cabazon, Fantasy Springs, Torres Martinez. I work with all those tribes too in our coalition, and we're all within an hour distance, but we always meet faithfully every month. And we always say, you know, we're not competition. We're here to, you know, share resources, to talk about working together, strength in numbers. So the tribes work well together, and that's what we have to do. Also, I wanted to mention about the League of Cities. So as you know, there are 478 cities in the state of California. So the coalition of tribes that I chair, there's 12 tribes in 3 counties. So every year we participate in the California League of Cities Conference, and it was held in Sacramento, but I know the past couple of years, Long Beach, and that's where Aquanetta and I did the electric slide. But that's a joke. But so anyhow, so the League of Cities, it's a wonderful conference, because what we decided to do is every year set up our booth with our brochures. We have the backdrop of Santos Manuel, which I'm going to put up here in just a minute. And we talk to the elected city councils and mayors from all the cities in the state, and we educate them on the tribes, because they have a lot of questions and they just don't know. So when we first joined about 13 years ago, the first conference was at the Moscone Center in San Francisco, the convention center. So we set up our nice booth, and we have tribal leaders from each of the tribes working the booth and putting information on the tables and answering questions, and mayors and elected officials were coming up to us. And so we got there in the morning, and the first group of city council and mayors, and I don't even recognize on their badge where the city was, I didn't even know the name, but they came up to our booth and said, "Why are the Indians at our conference? What's the reason and purpose of you being here?" And we're like, oh my God, don't let me go there, but. So I said, if you have a few minutes, would like to pull you to the side and explain to you the reason. You're a mayor, I'm a tribal chair. You have your elected city council with you, I have my elected tribal council with me. You're elected to look out for the best interests of your constituents in your local government. We're elected to look out for the constituents of our tribal government and community. And they're like, oh my gosh, you're like us, like a local government. Well, welcome, welcome. So ever since then, they open their arms to us every time we come to the League of Cities conference, and it's been wonderful. It's been great, because we've established so many friendships, met so many people, partners, and still there's questions. I know at the last one we just had in September in Long Beach at the convention center, I had some elected officials coming up asking, so you all speak the same, all 572 tribes all speak the same language, like Spanish? Like, no. I said, we're all diverse. We have our own cultures, we have our own dialect, and no, we all speak our own language. And they said, oh, well, we never knew that. So we're always still educating and answering questions like that to those that want to know, and it's important because most people don't know, and once we get there and start educating, it just continues to go on and on and on, and it's just been really great. So I remember, I don't know how many of you remember Skadron College of Business in downtown San Bernardino. That's where I went, actually my sister and I. And I know that's so old school now, it's not even there anymore. I think it used to be by Love's. There was a Love's restaurant there too. But I have to share this story. So right after high school, I went to Skadron College of Business, and the Bureau of Indian Affairs was paying for my education because at the time, you know, the tribes, we didn't have a fund for education. We really didn't have anything to help our own tribal members. So the BIA paid for my tuition to go. So every month, around the same time of the month, the first part of the week, over the loudspeaker, and it'd go into every room, they'd say my name, please come to the principal's office. So after about 3 months, my fellow students started asking me, what the heck's going on? You're always being called into the principal's office. Are you in trouble again? Well, what it was is at that time of the month, every month, the BIA, Bureau of Indian Affairs, would send my tuition check to Skadron, but it would be in my name, and I had to go in and sign it over to Skadron. So that went on for, you know, a couple of years. But now I'm happy and proud to say that we have our own education program and our own fund to fund our children and even our adult members who want to go back to school for higher education. And we pay for all of their tuition and their expenses, even to relocate if they want to go to a university in another state or on the East Coast, wherever it might be. The tribe will pay for their relocation as well, just as long as they go and they get their degree. And then also, I was the first appointed housing commissioner at age 20, and I'll show you what the HUD homes looked like back then. We only had 5 on our reservation, and they were about 500 square feet, not very big at all. And so I would travel every month to the All Mission Indian Housing Authority and fight for better housing, but it wasn't only San Manuel. There were a lot of tribes in the area that would go to the same meeting and fight for housing, and every meeting they would tell me, Lynn, your tribe is still at the bottom of the list because there are more needy tribes at the top before San Manuel. But back then, I already had my daughter and my son, and I would take them with me to those meetings because Sabrina remembers. She says, Mom, I think I was like 3 years old, and I'm sitting at the table with you, and you're trying to fight for better housing for the tribe. So she still remembers that. But that's what we did back then. You know, we had the kids with us, and it was just kind of an informal meeting with the BIA, but still, you know, we brought our family and our kids. So also, I did work for the San Bernardino Indian Center back in the 70s. You know, I just started all this when I was 9, so what can I say? But back in the 70s, there was a San Bernardino Indian Center right off of D Street, close to D and E, and it was a 2-story home, like an old historic home on the corner, and they hired me as a secretary. And this Indian Center was funded by the federal government, but assisted all tribes in the areas, even in the high desert. And so I'm sitting at the desk. I had just started as a secretary, and I see this limousine pull up in front of the office. And I saw a woman get out with a young man, and they came into the office, and it was Congresswoman Shirley Pettis. I don't know if any of you remember Jerry Pettis, who was her husband that was killed in a plane crash back then, and then she ran for his position, and she got in. So anyhow, Congresswoman Shirley Pettis comes in the office with, little did I know back then, and we're good friends now, but I don't know if any of you know Bill Leonard from Sacramento. So he was like in his late 20s maybe, and he's walking in with the Congresswoman, and she comes up to me, and she said, you know, I'm Congresswoman Shirley Pettis, and this is my Chief of Staff, Legislative Assistant Bill Leonard, and we're just here to do a tour and ask you what kind of assistance do you need here? What kind of help do you need? And so I got all nervous and scared. You know, I'm only 20 years old, and I said, well, the executive director is in his office. Let me go and get him. I said, because I'm just the secretary. And so since then, I learned this, and this is what I say to our all of our 5,000 employees today, never say just. Because when I said that, she looked at me and she said, Lynn, you are the secretary. Never say just. You are the secretary. You run this office. So ever since then, it doesn't matter, and I tell our, employees, because quarterly we meet with all 5,000. We just did a meeting with them day before yesterday in different shifts. Whether you're at the top management, director, all the way down to the lower positions, it doesn't matter what position that you're in. We're all human beings, and we should all treat one another with courtesy and respect. There's no reason not to. So I always stress that and to build morale with our employees, and we all need that in our lives. Thank you. So we always say leadership begins with passion, because if you have the passion, then comes the dedication and the commitment. And learning these lessons from my mother, my grandmother, and my cousins and my aunt, who also were in leadership positions, have helped me maintain my passion and move the tribe forward. I know that I can't do this all on my own or by myself. I have an elected council that works with me together to get things done, and we do what we can for the tribe, but not only the tribe, our local community. We do a lot in the local community for those that need assistance or that need help, and we always remember that it was difficult for us back in the day when we had nothing, but now that we're able and have the capabilities to share, we're a very giving tribe, and we do what we can to help others. So we're very, very happy that we can do that. And one thing that my mother and my grandmother always said is, never forget who you are or where you came from, and always treat people like you would want them to treat you with respect. And those words have taken me a long way in life. So with that, I'm going to be ending in just a few minutes, but I want to show these photographs and just go through them, and you'll see that they are photographs that I was just talking about, different topics and subjects, but I'll point them out to you. So let's go ahead and start with, and they gave me the clicker, so I hope I do this right. Okay. So right here, never forget who you are. And I took that line because of my mom and my grandmother. But right here, you'll see this is from the reservation, and right here is like a dirt road from the reservation. And then these are all orange groves in here and apricot groves. And see, there's no homes here or neighbors or anything like it is today. And this would have been probably back, I don't know, probably in the late 50s, maybe 60s right here, not really that long ago. So I wanted to share that picture, how there was just the reservation, and here was nothing, just all orange groves. And I know as kids we would go and pick the oranges from the trees. And then right here again is our Serrano ancestral territory. As you recall, I did say we had 7.3 million acres, but in 1891, when we were established as a reservation by executive order, it now is 650 acres, but now about 1,000 acres because we have assumed other properties. So that's kind of a map. I know it's probably kind of hard to see. Right here is our great-great-grandfather, Santos Manuel, and see, here's the pine trees, and there's the little pine cone right there. But this is our great-great-grandfather, and I always look at his ring. I'm like, check out that gold ring. And I know in the real photograph it looks gold, so right there he has a ring on his little finger right there, but that's our great-great-grandfather, who was our leader back in the 1800s. Okay. I know, every time I see that, I say the same thing, and my kids too. Okay, so I have to tell you the story about this picture. So this is me and my cousin. We're 5 years old. We went to public school, and I'm waiting for the city school bus to pick us up, to take us to school, and this is the dirt road. This original rock wall is still there. Actually, right over here on this side is the parking structure for the casino right now. And then over here is our guard gate of security going up Victoria. But this original wall, that is all still there. Just right here there are hedges there now that spell out the name San Manuel. But I do remember this photograph. My mom had just given me a perm. We used to say permanent, but it's a perm, I guess. But she'd say, I'm going to give you a permanent and put those little rollers on your hair. So that's why it's all bushy and frizzy. And so I said, and I still don't know what that note was right there. There's a little envelope with a note pinned on my sweater. But I do remember the T-strap shoes, though. But anyhow, I told my mom, I said, Mom, why is my lunch bag so big? I said, is that the fry bread and burritos or what? But I said, no wonder I was never a small woman. And she'd say, oh, honey, she said, that was the day the teacher said to send you to school with your little blanket because you'd have nap time at lunchtime. And I just said, oh, okay. So that's why my bag is so big. So I hope you weren't thinking it was full of a lot of food in there. In this photograph, too, this is how the reservation actually looked, and I do remember this as a kid. So right here is an old wooden house, and our grandpa used to live there in that house, and our grandfather was an enrolled member from Torres Martinez Reservation. He was not from San Manuel, but he lived here on the reservation in this little wood house. And this is a rock house that is still there, but it's been renovated and remodeled. And I used to stay here with my Aunt Wisha, and I had a bed right here in this corner right here, and she would watch me while my mom and my grandmother went to work, and they would go clean homes in the local area. But I want to share the story about this because I remember I was only maybe 3 or 4 years old, and I still remember this, and she'd come into the room and she'd say, I want you to come help me take a shower. And I'd say, okay. So we'd go out the back door of this, and there were 4 tin walls, very, very small, maybe 5 by 5, just enough for her to go inside. And there was a green water hose in there, and she'd turn the faucet on, and I would spray her down in there and soap her up and rinse her off. This was my aunt. And that's what we did back then, because we really didn't have any facilities like a shower or toilet. This was our outhouse right here. Right here was a chicken coop, and we'd pick eggs in there. But all this area is still here, but of course none of this is. It's all remodeled and renovated. Right here is the parking structure to the casino, and over here is the casino. So, but sometimes it makes me sad to kind of have those memories and look back how things used to be, but it makes me happy to know and share stories because I do remember. Right here, do any of you remember Mayor Ballard? Yeah, I remember him too. But anyhow, this I want to say was in the 60s, but here's my grandmother who was our chair in the 1950s that I mentioned. And here's my mother, Pauline Dimples Murillo. Dimples was her nickname and middle name because she always was smiling and had big dimples. So my mom is here and my grandmother, and they're talking to Mayor Ballard. This is Richard Manuel, one of our cousins, and he was our chair back then for a while, and then after that, all the women came in with their power and leadership. Isn't that great, women? And so Mayor Ballard, he was always a very, very good person to work with the tribe and ask what we needed, helped us with assistance. But this structure right here is what we call our big house, which is our ceremonial house, but it's called a big house. And it's no longer there, so we're building a new one. This is all tin roofs here. Right here is a tin roof, and then in here we had a kitchen where we would go and eat. So when we had funerals, we'd take the body in here, and the women would cook over here, and then there was a long bench, a wooden bench with a table in here where we would go and eat. But it's been since the 70s, I want to say, that this burned down. So we're currently building our new ceremonial big house, which in our language we call Kich Atarach. And that should be done, I want to say, around summertime, and it's going up now. So we're going to have a new ceremonial home for the tribe. Here's one of the HUD homes I was talking about, the 500 square foot HUD homes. We had maybe 5 on the reservation at the time, so this is how they looked. So I was always trying to do what I could to help the tribe to get better housing. Here's a photograph where, see, Indians are not going back to unemployment, and we still have to fight for our rights, for what is right. So this was back in the day when we were trying to get into gaming, but we were having a difficult time doing it. So we had to, it had to go to a referendum to have the voters of California vote for gaming for tribes. And again, it was President Reagan in 1988 who signed the bill to allow tribes to do gaming to become self-sufficient and self-sustainable, so they didn't have to rely on federal grants anymore. So we did a lot of work, both on a federal and a state level, the tribes did. And then in '86, we opened up the casino. So I worked at San Bernardino PD, as I had mentioned. My former boss here with us today, Vilya, hired me. So when I got out of work, this was in 1977 that I was at the PD, and then in '86 we opened the bingo hall. I'd take my uniform to the PD, and then when I got out at 5, I'd change and go to work at the bingo hall from 6 to midnight. And there were many of us from the tribe that worked there so that we could learn the business, so that we didn't have to have someone come in and manage it for us. And so I did that for several years just to kind of get to know and learn the business. And at that time, we even had a youth program there where my daughter Sabrina worked there, her and her brother, when they were only, I think, 15, Sabrina, both of you worked there, and even my sister Audrey. So we all worked there and put in our time working for the tribe. And this is downtown LA at the federal court building when, again, we were trying to fight for our rights so they wouldn't shut us down. So we had our employees bust in from our different reservations that had gaming, and we were on the steps there testifying at the federal court building. So again, we say strength in numbers. This is a home of a tribal member that had moved, and this was our tribal government center for a number of years. I had an office in here along with other council members, and then eventually we ended up building this as our office. So we have this beautiful office building, government center, community center up in the foothills, and you can actually see it from the 210 freeway. So we've come a long way in doing all of that, what we do with moving forward with construction and infrastructure and doing what we can to improve our reservation. And then this is the last one. This is our Bear Springs opening. Bear Springs is the hotel that used to be the Hampton Inn on Boulder and Highland Avenue. And the tribe bought the hotel, changed the name, added a restaurant, added a lounge with a bar and 24-hour room service, which the Hampton Inn never had any of those things. So we have a 24-hour shuttle that buses, people back and forth from the casino. But again, you can see our children here. Whoops. You can see our children here, the youth that are involved with the tribe. Here's my sister's grandkids are right here in the front, and we have my dad. This is my dad here. He'll be 88 this year. And here's my husband and all of tribal members here with council members and our 2 elders right here. These are my 2 aunts. So we do what we can to continue to, have leadership. Now, my 2 aunts right here, they were on our council back in the 1960s, and they helped write the articles, what we call Articles of Association or Constitution for our tribe right here. So, and they're still involved and attend our meetings as well. So with that, Hakupa'i in our language means thank you. And I want to say thank you, and I just really enjoyed talking to all of you. Thank you again so much for being here. It was certainly an honor. Thank you.
Stay here. Let's give her a big hand. This was a real eye-opener. It was past educating. Lynn, while we have your attention, I'm going to have Mayor Robinson come up here. We have something really special to talk to you about.
Okay, here I am. Josie, can you join us all?
Yes, please. Come on up. Please, please. Every year, in addition to having someone who happens to be the keynote speaker, we also honor or recognize someone who we feel, or the groups of us feel, has really been a jewel in the community, and we give them what we call the Jewel Award. And it's not always the keynote speaker. If a number of you have been here, we'll have a keynote speaker, and then we also have Jewel Award. But this year, we really said, this is it. This is the top of the top. I mean, Women's History Month, to listen to the history, to hear the history of our ancestors, women, full operation, to hear 400 years we've been involved, but to know that they also have been here much longer than us, struggling, surviving, and caring for their family. And so this year, though, I wanted to make sure, before she walks off the stage, that in addition to being the keynote and knowing how much we love you, we really do love you. And boy, let me tell you, when you go to the League of Cities, California League of Cities, besides the slide, she always will get me at the booth because she has wonderful, freshly made chocolate chip cookies. So she draws us all there. But no, Lynn has definitely been a leader in this region and has stood and at times I have seen all 17 tribal nations that are in what we call the 6th county of SCAG, which is the 6th county region. I have been to every one of those tribes, those nations, because one of the things I was part of was being able to be a part of a subcommittee that helped to establish a seat at the table for the regional council, where it's over 180-something cities that are represented in the 6 counties. And I've had the pleasure to even have her daughter, Sabrina, be one of those who was my seatmate because of establishing a seat for tribal nations to have a voting seat at the table at the regional councils. So it's without further ado, and this year that I am more than pleased to present to Lynn the Jewel Award for the 13th Annual Rialto State of Women, and this jewel goes to not to so much to San Manuel, but actually to Lynn for all that Lynn does in our region. Thank you.
In addition, we're going to have Supervisor Gonzalez make a presentation.
It is my honor today, no different than other times, to recognize individuals who play a critical role in creating who we are on our way to becoming. Individuals who help write the words in the paragraphs, in the pages, in the books of history, that many times we wonder, how did such and such a thing happen? How did City of San Bernardino start? How did City of Fontana start? How did Rialto get itself together? And we look for these intrinsic points in history that ultimately determined how we were going to proceed on a path towards development and, with God's grace, success. We are here looking at Lynn Valbuena as one of those individuals who represents an entire tribe, an entire family that incorporated other people unto themselves and brought themselves up from their own bootstraps, of which we, ladies and gentlemen, are very familiar with, are we not? Come on, this makes us one. We all struggle. We all struggle, and we all have stories of pain and suffering. And when we're able to bring individuals amongst us and hear that their path has been parallel in one way or another with ours, then I stand before you and I say, Lynn Valbuena, as you receive your Jewel Award from the City of Rialto's Annual State of the Women in 2019 versus 1619, I present to you, on behalf of the County of San Bernardino, honey, somebody's making some money out there right now. That's work, that's business going on. On behalf of the County of San Bernardino, it is my pleasure to join Mayor Deborah Robertson and the City of Rialto in offering you my sincere gratitude and appreciation for the work you do for our communities. Your service is a true inspiration to many other young women and older women as well, because we continue to walk that path, regardless of where we come from. The path to success, the path with God's grace is ahead of us, and together we are stronger and better. And Lynn, I present this certificate of recognition to you.
Before we conclude, I want to also take the opportunity to briefly bring up our congressional member. In Rialto, we have the benefit of having 2 congressional members representing the city of Rialto. And I do feel we're special, and I don't have a problem with even being, maybe riding around in yellow buses if necessary, but no, we are special. We enjoy the benefit of having congressional members that look out for Rialto, to the point that yesterday I even met with our Congress member to go over a number of projects and a number of things that are very important to our city and that she's going to carry forward and continue to focus on. I also know that Mayor Aquanetta Warren is flying out Sunday, going back to D.C. so that she can meet with one of the major departments, U.S. Department of Transportation, on getting a briefing on a project they put forward. I'm sure she will be knocking on the door and going by to see our Congresswoman as well. But let me say, I love that she was able to get here. When speaking with her yesterday, I found out that her father had open heart surgery, and he has been in the hospital. She hadn't had a chance to get by to see him. I knew she indicated she was going to try to make it there as well as make it here. And so I do appreciate that you've come, and I'd like you to come up and have a few words to the group before we depart. So give a round of applause to Congresswoman Norma Torres, another hard-working woman in the Inland Empire.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mayor Robertson and Mayor Aquanetta Warren. And thank you to all of the women that are here today being represented. Congratulations, Ms. Villanueva, for being recognized. Your work within Native American women, ensuring that they step up to their leadership skills and that they're able to represent communities across California too. So thank you all for being here. I think this recognizing the women that were here is the first step to ensuring that we work together for the next pipeline, that we prepare the young women to take up leadership positions, not only in business, but also in politics. So with that, I want to say thank you for leading by example, because you certainly have. Being the CEO of a city is not an easy thing to do, but she is really a kick-butt mayor. So thank you for all that you do once again.
Thank you, Norma. No, thank you. Thank you for being there and having the passion and the focus for our community and for this region. So we've had another wonderful State of the Women event. This was our 13th annual. Give yourselves a round of applause. Look forward to seeing you again next year. But, you know, be ready and be prepared, because we're going to do something exciting and different again next year. Have a wonderful day. Travel safe. Try and avoid getting into any accidents. I want to really thank you guys. And again, see you next year.